So, media predicts. Media predicts. I know what you're thinking. We can barely trust you guys to tell us what's already happened. But we got a great group here today, and before you get too skeptical about why you should listen to what these folks have to say, consider last year's panel has an amazing track record at landing some of the top jobs in tech PR. So pay attention. All right, let's get down to business. Top story of 2010. What was it? Eric?
Top story of 2000, besides the Giants?
Yeah.
Okay.
Hey.
I'm playing to the crowd on the Giants. Okay. I don't really like the Giants. Okay, so top story. Phillies fan. I heard a lot of that when I went to the playoff game. So I'd say there were a lot of big stories. One thing I think was a big story is the rise of the iPad and the tablet computer.
One top story of 2010.
There you go. The iPad and tablet computing comes out of nowhere to be a huge, to have a huge impact on the PC industry. It's hurting sales of laptops. The iPad has, while people knew it was coming, I think the adoption of the iPad has been far more impressive than anybody thought.
Especially Dan Lyons.
I'm sorry?
Especially Dan Lyons.
Yeah,
he was
rolled over by it.
And there's been dozens now, literally dozens of companies that are either have introduced or are introducing other tablets to try and catch up. So far, nobody's caught up. So that would be my choice, is the rise of tablet computers.
Dan, what about you? Top story 2010.
Rise of Android. Far and away for me the most interesting thing that happened all year. I was blown away by Android. And I remember 2 years ago getting the first Android phones and thinking, God, these suck. I would never leave my iPhone for this. And then this year, it totally changed, and I've become a rabid Android fan, and I'm just amazed at how the market share has grown, and now the tablets. I'm carrying a Galaxy tablet with me now. I'm amazed at it. Because I've covered open source for a long time, and it's other than Netscape, it's the first time we really saw an open source thing, and I guess we could argue about whether it's really open source or not, but kind of an open source project really take off and scale and succeed and win. I love that story and been amazed by it.
Got a product and the technology. Who else wants to jump in? Top story of 2010.
I agree with Eric.
iPad? All right. Who else?
I'd say Angry Birds on Android.
Angry Birds.
They're all playing it now.
Yeah.
Who, me? Facebook coming into its own, not just in terms of the weight of number, but the strategic moves they made to make themselves critical to so many other players. Things they did for the developer platform by allowing people to port their own data and Facebook wouldn't get in the way. The use of the like button across the internet, which gave kind of an access to millions of web pages into Facebook, and the use of Facebook credits, which will become larger and larger. It's not just a phenomenon that they're riding and scaling up really well. It's a really interesting business and platform that they're going to grow up, and they did all that this year without missing a beat as far as I could see.
I'm enjoying this. Nobody's picked mine yet. Chris?
I'm going to go with the self-immolation of Mark Hurd.
That was mine.
Oh, he had help.
And the biggest surprise of the year, I'd say. I mean, he just turned this company into the biggest technology company in the world, and then bam, he's gone. And
bam, he's back.
He's back.
Yeah, although, now he's just working for Oracle. He's the number 2 or 3 guy now. So a good comeback for him.
If it's Safra talking, it's 3. If it's him talking, it's 2, depending on how you. Yeah.
But now we have to figure out one of the most acquisitive companies out there is suddenly, are they going to keep going with the acquisition strategy? Are they going to try to develop more stuff? Who knows? And with Leo coming in, are they going to try to buy SAP? I think it'll be an interesting story this year and next year.
I think they buy Tomorrow Now. I think that's HP's next big one. Rich.
So I think I would agree with many of the things that people have said, but I would say Google China. Google, the fact that we just saw this week in the WikiLeaks that there was a cable that indicated that China did indeed, the government of China did indeed attack Google. They ordered that attack, and if that is true. And it has profound consequences for every company in Silicon Valley that a foreign nation might be attacking your company.
Ben?
Can I pander first and say thank you to the PRSA for allowing me to speak to this? I wasn't done pandering. I was going to say, allowing me to speak in front of this crowd of moderately to extremely attractive individuals. Except one of you's ugly as sin, so I'll let you figure out who. Now that I'm done pandering for now, I was going to say, so everyone said Facebook, iPad, Apple, so I'm going to go the negative route since those were the ones I was going to originally pick. I'm going to say, and this is the story that won't really become apparent until the next couple years, it is the failure of Google at social. It's abysmal failure. You're not supposed to clap at failure.
Does Facebook have a table here? I didn't know that.
If it's Facebook or Microsoft or Apple, good for you. But it's not going to be apparent. It's not apparent quite yet, but it'll be apparent over the years how badly it hurt Google this year that it couldn't succeed with its social initiatives.
But they're going to buy Groupon.
And I think that's a very good acquisition.
For like $6 billion.
And I think it's worth every overpriced penny. But that's not really a social initiative. That's really a local thing. Those are different things, in my opinion.
Is Groupon worth $6 billion? I mean, I know you all are investment bankers by training. So you're the group I wanted to ask. $6 billion, Groupon?
Yes.
If the revs really are 1.5, yeah, on simple math, it's worth it, right?
If you
and the areas it takes them to, and the opportunity cost if somebody else picks it up, and they got a ton of cash, what's the part where they're crazy?
How do you stop people from copying it?
You don't, but they buy them.
It's
that's
just like
basically what they use
YouTube.
their money on.
It's like buying YouTube, right? So Google buys YouTube. There was if we were here the year that Google bought YouTube, we'd having the discussion about, are they insane paying like $1.6 billion to buy YouTube? What are they buying? Cat videos? And so, and YouTube now
those cats have a lot more money than people thought.
Yeah, so it turns out you can sell ads against cat videos, right? This is the same thing, right? YouTube, there was nothing exclusive about what YouTube was doing. Anybody could post, do a site, post videos on the web. There were a lot of other sites, and there still are other sites, but they became the dominant player. And there's the opportunity with Groupon to do the same thing, to seize the leading player in this category. Now, maybe it turns out that it's a passing fad, and they'll, but $6 billion, they have what, 30 some odd billion dollars in the bank? It's like loose change.
There's a difference between 1.6 billion
it's a worthwhile
and 6
gamble,
billion,
and
but,
it keeps Groupon from ending up in the hands of Facebook or Microsoft, say.
But they brought us here for predictions. So let's start predicting, people.
Yes, sir.
Yeah. PCs and tablets, 2011. Is the netbook dead? Will the tablet rule? Your judgments.
It's already dead.
The netbook is, sorry.
I think the iPad, tablets, are going to squeeze out netbook. Netbook was a sort of a temporary category. And I think the only question I think when the Android tablets start to come on is, are they going to be strong enough to really make a serious dent in the iPad world? And are you going to get the sort of Android, iOS balance and fight going on? Or are those devices going to be strong enough to take on the iPad?
Oh, Quentin's making faces. Come on.
Well, I got a sort of different take on it just because I think all of these definitions are becoming comments about the SKU. It's like if the guy makes a phone, it's a phone. If the guy makes a PC, it's a PC. They're all access devices to the internet, and the purpose depends on what your context is at the time.
But there
really isn't that much difference anymore.
Where the differences are, though, are if you think about the hardware and software elements of the devices, right? So tablets have no hard drives, right? So this is a bit of a problem if you make hard drives for a living, right? So Seagate has to be a little bit worried here, right? Seagate was going to be bought, maybe now it turns out they're not going to be bought. Maybe that's a factor. There are different OSs running on these devices. There's different chips that, Intel does not dominate this market the way they do PCs. So Although for the consumer, at the end of the day, you're still doing your email, you're still surfing the web.
The interesting
going
thing
to
me is like the device you choose depends on what experience you want.
That's right.
And they're all out there.
And
Right.
You know,
besides, where do you draw the line between a feature phone, a smartphone, a tablet, a super smartphone?
Somewhere at Intel's revenues, you draw the line. I mean, this is one of my big predictions for 2011. I think Qualcomm becomes Intel's nemesis in 2011. We've been used to that being AMD. I think it becomes Qualcomm because the question of netbooks versus tablets becomes an important one.
I mean, is a netbook on anyone's Christmas list? I mean, that's my barometer. Like, who wants one for Christmas? Well, or Hanukkah or whatever you celebrate. No one in my family.
Kwanzaa netbook for me. Anybody else?
I'll declare the netbook dead just as soon as I sell my current one. Someone buy it.
All right. We mentioned chips in the netbooks versus tablets. We've got Sandy Bridge. We've got Fusion. I think Fusion looks kind of hot. AMD's got some potential there. Which one do you think will win out in the graphics and CPU, 2 cores, 2 great tastes that taste great together? It's kind of like the McDLT of chips for 2011. Who wins? Intel, AMD?
Well, Intel always wins. I mean, why would they not win this time?
Come on, Opteron, not
it's
always.
a temporary phenomenon.
Except-
Intel wins. AMD survives because Intel doesn't want to have to deal with the ramifications of having a monopoly. Intel beats AMD. Sorry if anybody's from AMD.
I don't know if I necessarily agree. I mean, Intel does win mostly, but AMD sold off all its factories in 2008, and it doesn't have to worry about filling those factories anymore, and it can really concentrate on the marketing and selling. They just have to be a lot more consistent.
But let me just say one other thing, which comes back to something we were saying before, which is okay, I shouldn't look at that. So I think you're right. I think you're right, John, that it's Qualcomm and ARM that Intel has to worry about now, not AMD.
Right.
I mean, that's the real enemy, because the more that people adopt mobile phones, tablets, other non-PC devices as their main means of computing, the bigger a problem it is for Intel. And I think that's the real issue for Intel in 2011, not AMD.
Let's see what the Romulans have to say. No, they're not. Quentin, were you? I think I saw you having an opinion over there.
No, I was looking at the NVIDIA table. They were waving their sign.
Nice job.
Settlement or no settlement? Is that going to be 2010 or 2011? Anybody else? What do you think? Any leftover chip thoughts? No, nobody wants to touch that?
Well, I was going to say it's moving slightly away from the AMD versus Intel battle. You have, obviously you mentioned Qualcomm, but you have now it's the mobile chip manufacturers. There's a certain one in London that is doing very well thanks to this other certain company out of Cupertino, although that company also has its own chipset,
I would say that in tech, people make this mistake of saying the word commodity in really dismissive ways. It's a commodity now, it's no good. Like, the biggest businesses in the world are commodity businesses, okay? Like Exxon's a commodity business, Cargill's a commodity business, Coca-Cola's a commodity business. I'd argue Google's a commodity business. They all extract and refine and distribute more efficiently than anybody else, whatever their product set. And essentially, people are still putting a hell of a lot of x86 chips into data centers and will be for as far as we can see out there, and that gives Intel this huge base of cash and cash flow with which they can do many, many things. Nobody else has that advantage.
Are you predicting something?
I think they have a strong base, is all I'm saying. They can. We were saying they're doomed.
And based on that, you predict what?
Hey, NVIDIA table. I don't know.
Okay.
I don't count them out with Eric.
Never count Intel out. That ranks right up there with nobody puts baby in the corner.
Dude.
Right? I think so. Dancing with the Stars just proved that all over again. Nobody puts baby in the corner. Yeah. Okay, well, Dottie Perlmutter, the Intel guy, at IDF told me that Intel will absolutely have a smartphone chip in 2011. Paul Jacobs just recently told me, we're not looking at 2011 as being the year that Intel blows it out in smartphones. What do you guys think? Who's right? Will Intel really make it big in smartphones in 2011?
They should. And I'm going to leave it at that.
Sounds like a no. Who else?
Well, it's where this is what I was saying. It's the challenge for Intel is to become a competitive player in a market where they're behind. And so do they catch up in 2011? They get closer. I don't know I don't have a prediction in terms of market share, but I think their attention gets focused on this as you see a large increase in the number of tablets that are sold, most of which are not using Intel chips, and an increasingly large number of smartphones, which are sometimes being used as replacements for PCs, again, often with non-Intel chips.
Will Dell come back in 2011?
No!
Dell table.
The Dell table system.
Those poor people are screaming.
Either that or the Intel table.
We're sorry too.
Dell in 2011.
Gets sold.
Gets sold. To?
I don't know.
Oracle.
It's a very
They need the whole vertical.
I bet.
Where is the next major growth sector for them? Where's the growth driver? You can point at other companies and they say this is an area they're growing. This market is growing.
It was an awesome supply chain while it lasted.
Yeah,
I think Dell is no longer relevant. I think Dell was, sorry, are they a sponsor?
No, no, they're not.
I predict most
They're an aluminum sponsor.
Dell was a company in the last wave of computing that made a business out of copying what other people did and then finding a way to build those things cheaper and more efficiently than everybody else, sourcing and bringing in parts and building a factory. And that was a great business. And if they can manage to do the same thing in this next wave, which is mobile computing, and find a way to clone the iPhone, a few years out, Dell never was an innovator. They were just a follow-on, and they were innovator in terms of building things. But I don't see right now how they're relevant at all, unless except as a licensee of Windows or of Android on the new platform. If they can find a way to make those phones a little cheaper and a little more efficiently than other people, they have a thing. But right now, I don't pay any attention at all to Dell. None, zero. They're not even on my radar.
Harsh, fake
I'm just
Steve.
saying, I don't pay any attention to them. When's the
Sounds
last time?
like real Steve.
Is there a Dell product in the last year that I don't even know what they made in the last year? Is there anything I should even care about?
Streak.
Adamo?
Oh, the Streak.
Yeah.
Adamo by Dell? What else?
I think their bigger problem, though, is not that I expect them to innovate on products, but all those companies that are in that space are buying other people to get big, and they just got shut out of the most recent one. So, how do you, if anyone can outbid you for someone to help you get bigger, where do you go? You can't come up with a new product, a new market.
I did like, however, how Dell managed to bid on 3PAR, lose, and come out $75 million ahead.
Yeah.
Do a few more of those.
Yeah,
you can really, you
Yeah.
can get big.
Yeah.
You can get. I will have to throw this to Dell though. If all of these crazy acquisition valuations turn out to be a bridge too far for everybody else, they could end up ahead, being disciplined.
With
and
what?
efficient. Huh?
With what?
By just sitting
$75
there.
million.
It gets back to the question that Rachel said. Does anybody have a Dell product on their Christmas wish list this year? I mean, I don't. I
Michael
don't.
Dell,
All right,
I'm
I'm
sure.
Michael Dell has some.
I'm going to take the unpopular position in this panel and do one defense of Dell, and that is the best companies solve two problems. They solve a problem of technology and they solve a problem of distribution. I'm not going to say Dell solved a problem of technology, but they solved a problem of distribution. If they can figure out how to solve that problem of distribution in terms of mobile or the new classic computing devices, they'll be able, maybe not grow again, but at least they will be here for a good long while.
Really, I have to say, why
let
are
me
we
say
even
what
talking
I-
about Dell? Like, we've talked already about Dell, more than I've
No,
talked about
so
Dell in 2 years.
There's one, but the one thing that you can say for Dell, right, is they, to the extent that you see a recovery in enterprise computing spending, to the extent that you see a refresh cycle in PCs in the enterprise, they are very reliant. They're like 80% of their PC sales or something like that come from the enterprise. People spend more money on the enterprise. And Dell will do fine. Dell actually had a pretty good quarter in the last quarter, I think, right?
Yeah.
Was it 20% Dell people, something like that?
I think there's some trends that are really undermining that.
Right.
Turn up this woman's mic.
Please.
I think there's some trends that are undermining that. I mean, in the enterprise, there's a lot more selection. People, the refresh cycles are going longer. There's iPads in the enterprise. There's Macs that are coming into the enterprise. There's a lot more selection than there used to be. It used to be Dell. Dell was it. And now there's a lot more choice. And I think CIOs are really thinking about what they're putting in.
All right. Well, we've beat Dell to death. Let's talk technologies. A lot of big technologies in 2010. What are going to be the big ones for 2011? The defining technologies that'll catch everybody's attention. The Angry Birds of 2011. Where are they going to be, people? Angry raccoons? Rabbit squirrels? What?
I'm still processing the idea Angry Birds is a technology.
I think Connect.
Connect?
Yeah, talk about what's on your shopping Christmas list or
Yeah.
Hanukkah or Kwanzaa list, whatever.
Motion-sensitive devices.
I mean, that is,
Yeah.
it's really rare that you see innovation like that from Microsoft. And
Good job with that Microsoft.
The Microsoft
And
table,
that
right?
is just,
Just when they were starting to enjoy themselves.
no, but
They're
that is,
within range. They-
I'm gonna say something nice. That is phenomenal innovation from Microsoft.
Yeah.
And I think Microsoft is really smart to
How
leave
do
that.
they do that?
Well, really, to leave the hacking thing open so people can hack it. Leave that thing open.
Yeah.
There's a lot of potential applications for that.
Video conferencing. I'm going
I
to
was
throw that
going
out
to
there.
say 4G. I
Yeah,
think the need
4G.
for speed. I'm a speed demon. I'm really excited about that.
Yeah? Verizon table?
Yeah, hey. But no, I think that's key, right? Like we want to be able to see download our music faster, video chat on our phones, and going along with phones, voice search. Awesome. I think the way that we can do that more, the more that we can get our phones to read our minds. I'm hoping that by 2011, I don't even have to pick up my phone to check in someplace to search for something. I think Eric Schmidt said that maybe they're brain implants that they're working on at Google. He wasn't sure. I'm hopeful.
You're hopeful.
I'm hopeful.
You want that Eric Schmidt brain implant.
Oh yeah.
Be sure to tell me how that goes. Okay. I'm going on the record with video conferencing. I think dual cameras in an iPad, maybe some other things like that could be huge. Who else? Technologies for 2011.
NFC.
Near field communications.
Thank you. Yes. It may not go completely mainstream in 2011, but you can bet your ass that Apple's next phone is going to have it, and it's going to pave the way for at least
I
in the
can
U.S.
bet my
to finally.
ass that Apple's next phone is going to have it.
No, it's
Yes.
gonna. Well, it's
So
gonna,
if it doesn't,
Yeah, you lose.
I can't.
it's gonna be
Yeah,
on Android.
yours, not mine.
All right. Okay.
It'll be on the next load of Android in a couple of weeks, and it'll be in phones. And it's not just for a cache proxy. It's also going to be used for downloading media. You'll be able to come to like a movie poster and get the film clip just by putting your phone against the poster. Or it'll be used in advertising. The chips are so cheap. You can do them in all these other ways. And yeah, that will pervade.
But I think that I wouldn't underestimate the opportunity in payments, because that's I mean, you're talking
Oh, it's
about
monster.
it's a monster opportunity to replace replace credit cards, and the industry is on top of this. This is they've been working on some people are already issuing credit cards that effectively have NFC chips in them.
It is
Is
more.
Eric
it's gonna
Savage
go from
predicting
that
that
to
the
your
credit card
phone.
will die in 2011?
No, it's not going to
credit
die
cards
in
by other means.
2011.
It's not.
Mine doesn't
the
expire
little-
for a few more years.
The little plastic rectangle might go away, but it's the same players for the most part. It's just different means, and they say more secure, so they kind of like it.
Okay.
But we are moving. I think we'll rapidly see movement towards using your cell phone for payments, where you won't have to carry credit cards.
Who does not think we will get a Verizon iPhone in 2011?
How about in the entire
personally?
room? Is there anyone in the
I'm
entire
getting
room?
it. I'm definitely getting it.
So what month will it show up?
January.
Or March.
Ooh, January, March. What else?
Could be February.
February. Okay.
Question is, will the reception actually be better?
Probably not.
Well, actually, think about it. That's actually a legitimate question.
it's not,
Everyone assumes it's going to be better, but there's going to be a massive wave of a surge of traffic data that's going to happen when you have the new Verizon iPhone. It's going to continue to go.
There's a strong chance it'll suck outright because if you talk to AT&T and believe them, they'll tell you that the iPhone app really changed the way they had to architect all the antennas because people are suddenly using their phones on the 5th and 6th floor, and they had to change the tilt of every antenna in the Bay Area because supposedly, cell phones are something you use on the ground. And apps are persistent. You leave them on all day, and that's a big drag on the network. And I got to say, when I was at the Google Developers Conference, it's like the only room where everybody had a Nexus phone, right? And we're on Verizon. Thing locked up in like 5 minutes, So
I think
Verizon could have all the network problems AT&T has had.
Well, but the other question about the service, too, is the phone going to have better service? That's it. Right? I mean, are the antennas going to be different? Are they going to be the same? Was there ever a problem? Steve Jobs.
Hold on, I found a phone in a bar.
Yeah.
That was, I think, one of the biggest stories of the year, for me anyway.
Yeah.
That not just that Gizmodo found that phone, which I thought was amazing, right? That I was having dinner with Brian Lamb the week before that ran, and he told me, like, dude, we bought a freaking iPhone 4. Like, he told me the whole story. I was like, whoa. I never, but more important than that, Apple's reaction to it and that whole crackdown with them breaking down the guy's door and stuff, like that to me was mind-blowing. We haven't even talked about what a big story that was this year. But I mean, the product itself was a big story, but Apple sort of being shown for being as crazy as they are sometimes. It was really shown up in that story.
And 10 minutes later, the world
Brett
didn't
Favre
care.
should have taken notes.
And then
They're just so good at marketing.
What I loved was Gruber was going on the whole time saying, like, you guys are going to jail, man. You're going to prison. Like, nothing came of it. Like, I don't think anything. I think it's all just fizzled, right?
Yeah,
Last
right.
I knew, Gawker sort of turned over some stuff, got the guy's computers back, and that was it, right?
Turned out to be some shit. What are you going to do?
Maybe the kid who sold it, did he ever get in trouble? Did he go to jail?
Yeah, did he get fired?
No, the kid who found it in the bar.
No, but what about the guy who lost it?
No, the
What
guy
happened
lost
to
is
him?
still there.
Well, the guy
He's
lost.
fine?
Yeah,
He's an antenna engineer.
No,
they
nobody-
need those. He got a raise.
he hasn't been seen or heard from in a long time.
seriously.
Yeah, he got a transfer. But he's in Shenzhen, isn't he? I think he jumped up a building.
But I gotta
sorry, that
come
was
out-
another big story.
I have got to come out and say I am not betting on a Verizon phone in January
Really?
or February or March. I think it's June or July.
So you know what? I think there's actually a little bit of evidence that suggests that might happen, which is, so this week, Verizon announces that this Sunday, they start rolling out 4G service, right? So, and at the time, initially it's just going to be PC-based data cards, right? They said they will have the first LTE devices mid-year 2011. Now, if you think the Apple Verizon iPhone is going to be a 4G device, maybe it is. Maybe it is until May, June, July.
Here is my logic, though. Here's my logic. If you are Apple, you're used to running this efficient machine where you're manufacturing stuff, you're getting it there just in time. Are you really going to make an entirely different phone and deliver it right in the middle of your delivery cycle for the iPhone? Like in January, when you're used to delivering them in late June, screw up that entire supply chain and deliver it right after your biggest quarter, Q4. Deliver it in Q1 when nobody's buying anything. What kind of sense does that make?
This is why you're on TV.
Is that a compliment?
No, I mean, you're so smart. You're so smart. And you look good, too. Look at you. You're looking good. This is true.
It's my bubby
tell
here.
you.
What can I say?
Right? I mean, but can we say just hello to the access table? I just want to try something. So hi.
I think Access
Anyway.
is
Can I
get a
winning
wave?
tonight.
Yeah.
Someone's got. I mean, you got to step it up, people. On your note, so Q1 of 2010, I think the iPad did pretty well doing it in Q1. But I do think that I don't think they'll launch at the same time. I do think that the Verizon iPhone, it doesn't make as much sense to launch in January, only because you want to keep all the iOS devices somewhat in sync for you don't want to you want to keep the iOS you want to keep iOS the same on there. They finally merged them together in 4.2. They don't want to be breaking it off again. I'm They're never going to launch at the same time, but I think you might see a little bit of a closer time frame.
Can I
So
point
what
out
month
one
are
other
you
thing?
saying?
Is there any other company in the world that like all these reporters will sit around like trying to guess and think like what? No, all due respect to Dell, but nobody ever sits around going, "What do you think the next version of the Streak's gonna have, man?" Like seriously, I don't think this. It drives me nuts the way we all do this. Like we sit around and speculate. Well, if they do it in June, that would be.
You made a whole franchise out of it.
I
What are
know.
you talking about? It drives you nuts.
I know, but I mean, like, I mean, no, every company in the world would kill for this kind of, this kind of craziness, right? But I mean, I don't even know how Apple does it. For example, okay, whatever happened to that white iPhone? I bet everybody on this has written about it. Have you written about the white iPhone that never shipped, that never existed?
Everyone
right?
wrote about the white iPhone.
How many words have you written about the non-existent white iPhone?
More than were required.
Yeah, see?
No, 5 articles at least.
5 articles,
I mean,
right? Like,
yeah,
could it be this? Could it be that? Why? What happened? Blah. Like, I mean, Apple is an amazing company, and I don't know how they do it. I think it's like mass hypnosis or something. Remember during the 2008 election, there were people like birthers who were saying that Obama was using NLP, neuro-linguistic programming, to hypnotize audiences in his speeches. I think Apple does a sort of version of that. I think there's
NLP in the next iPhone. You can bet your ass on it.
there will be, and
already
NFC.
there.
Every iPod has subliminal messaging. That's how it happens.
God, I don't know, man. But
Cloud computing, will we still be talking about it in 2011, or will everybody realize that the term no longer has any meaning whatsoever?
Yes. Yes, yes, yes.
Wait, yes to what? Wait,
And
go on,
that's,
go on,
that's
go on.
because everyone has thought that it's died already, but it's actually coming back. And
How does the term not have any meaning?
Well, I mean, does it mean software as a service? Does it mean utility computing? Does
I
it
think
mean, like,
it
what
means
is
everything. All, it's all in the
Exactly.
cloud.
It's like
If it's not
internet.
on your desktop, it's in the cloud.
It's just more fun to say than software as a service. Which
Yeah.
Which is the worst acronym ever, right?
But what
Sorry,
do-
Mark, but
What do
you know.
Salesforce.com and VMware have in common?
really high
It's cloud
multiples.
computing, right? You know.
But it happens somewhere else, not at your house, not at your office.
Yeah.
But I think
Not
what
with a mouse, not in a house.
we're
yes.
starting
In
to
terms of talking
see.
about what's happening in enterprise hardware and software, it's everything. I mean, that's cloud computing in terms of the back end and the plumbing is why you've got the consolidation of 4 or 5 big companies and all the guys in the middle are getting sucked up.
Yeah, and I think
That's because of cloud computing.
And we're starting to see companies with hundreds of thousands of employees in the cloud. Very quietly, they're starting to really move back-end systems into the cloud.
Yeah, but I think there are a number of different, distinct, and important trends that are being lumped in under this term that really, what does it mean? I mean, you can talk about software as a service. You can talk about systems,
Well, it
what
means-
Cisco's putting together,
But what it means
what
is
Oracle's
actually,
trying to put
I think
together.
it's actually not. I don't think it is as complicated as the story as that. In essence, you're talking about taking your data from a local location and putting it in a centralized location where you don't need to buy as many servers, you don't need to hire as many network administrators, and you're cutting costs. And you're seeing this both. I mean, consumers are doing this. All the time, you've got you're downloading videos from Netflix, or you're pulling, you've got music in the cloud, or you're uploading your pictures to or Flickr or something. Yeah. So and this is a phenomenon that, in a sense, the consumers have comfortably adopted to, and I think the enterprises are just naturally going to do what is, in fact, their economic imperative, which is to cut costs. This is about reducing costs at the end of the day for the enterprise, and it's just cheaper if you've got it centralized. And so I think there's no question. I mean, if you're tired of hearing about cloud computing, it's sort of a bummer, because I think we're going to hear about it more and more and more and more.
I think the term doesn't have much
Yeah, I was
meaning
gonna say,
anymore.
I
What do you
think,
got
I
this half of the
think
stage?
we won't hear about cloud computing, I think, because I don't think that, like, if you look at 10-year-olds today, I'm not sure they make a distinction between cloud computing and earth computing, if you will, right? So, I mean, I agree that it'll
Grunge
exist, that it'll be really important. I mean,
Let's
our-
put this topic and the previous one together. If Apple says all of your songs are in the cloud,
Yeah.
will we keep talking about cloud computing? Oh, yeah.
Yeah, but Apple won't say they're in the cloud. They'll
They'll be
come
in
up
the
with a much
iCloud.
Or
more
will we talk about streaming
palatable
media?
way to say it that'll get people excited. Like
What
that's a
have you?
problem we face. It's sort of this mega trend, and yet convincing readers they should care or that it's having an impact on their lives is tough, because it's very evolutionary, it's very abstract. But if you say, if you come at it as saying, well, now you're going to stream all your TV on your computer, or now Netflix is going, streaming only, or getting away from DVDs, That's the stuff you write about. The cloud stuff, I don't know, I think it begins to sort of move
But
into the
even
background
think
a lot.
about Facebook. Facebook is basically a cloud application, right? Where's all your Facebook data live? On your desktop?
Yeah, but if
No,
you write
it lives in
about
the cloud.
Facebook as a cloud
But
application.
no, I understand that, but the point is though that the trend, the underlying trend, data lives, in the mysterious cloud, is something that is going to be pervasive and only becomes more so over time.
Ben?
It will,
Dan?
but we're not
Cloud? Are you pro-cloud? Are you anti-cloud?
Oh, sorry. I don't know how you can be pro or against cloud. I mean, it's like
Come on, you're killing me.
I mean, it's like people used to say about Linux. Are you pro Linux?
No,
I
I'm
don't give a
talking
shit
about the-
either
I'm
way. I
talking
don't
about
care.
the
Whatever.
term,
Like,
the term.
I mean, I just cover it. I don't make it happen. You know.
Streaming,
I mean,
like we write about cloud computing.
Yeah, if it
or are you
happens, I'll
talking
be
about
there. I'll write
software
about
as a
it.
service, utility computing,
Yeah,
streaming media? Are you
fine.
talking about apps? What are you talking about? I don't know anymore.
I don't know. I get all those terms. It's not that confusing to me. Now I don't know why you're on TV anymore. Now I'm starting to wonder.
That's why I'm on
So
TV.
now I know why you're on CNBC.
Yeah,
But,
there you go.
I know. Look, I mean the cloud. Sorry, accent shit. No, I mean I think it makes sense. The whole move to cloud. I mean, there's different terms, but it all means. It's all we all understand it's an umbrella term.
I don't understand what you're talking about here, John, because it's like, well, there's candy and there's beef and then there's farming. What does this food word mean?
Well,
I
it's like
think
saying, why do we
cloud
call it mobile
computing is
computing?
like
Are you talking
the
about-
information superhighway of
Yeah.
2011. Who says that anymore? What does that even mean?
I'm,
It says information superhighway.
Well, that was all
Exactly. That's what I mean. I think
what's
cloud
called,
computing is heading that way.
I agree. And thank God, I need to.
Thank you.
Oh, and a random prediction. I think the clouds are going to come from the sky in 2011 and take over and be our new overlords.
Yeah.
I like that. That's edgy.
So we had some people in the audience who are upset that we, Cisco, why didn't we mention Cisco in the cloud? Mentioning Cisco!
Nice pandering.
Dell powers the cloud.
Okay,
Dell!
I have one. Let me ask
Wait,
you,
I think
in terms of the cloud,
Microsoft,
here's one interesting
SAP, and
angle.
Yahoo power the cloud.
There were tweets. People are, just responding in real time.
If the cloud drives consolidation, which listen to Nick Carr's basic thesis, right? Which is that we go to a model like electricity and becomes more consolidated into data centers. Data centers buy from fewer suppliers, so there's a massive consolidation that's bound to happen, right? What happens to the mid-market companies like the EMCs and the Junipers of the world? Where do they end up? Who buys them? Like who buys EMC? EMC is really not big enough to, and it's a great company, don't get me wrong, but I mean, where do they end up? Do they end up part of HP? And who becomes the 2 or 3 big cloud operators, and how do all the pieces that are out there now get sucked up into those 2 or 3 big suppliers?
That was a very
I
deep
think that's a really, really interesting question. Because
Thank you very
I
much. I'm gone now.
I think in the enterprise, you're really going to see some dynamic shift. I think, sorry, SAP, we're going to see some inroads from other players into SAP's territory, into Oracle's territory. And I think we're about to see this huge shift in the way that enterprises operate.
Yeah, SAP is like one of the last, if not the last, great European tech company. And it'll be like Airbus or something. It'll get carried. They won't disappear.
No, I'm not saying SAP is going to disappear. That's not what I'm saying. What I'm saying is that I've been spending a lot of time talking to CIOs lately, and they've been talking about how, increasingly they're thinking about ERP and they're thinking about cloud, and they're not sure where SAP fits into that thought process. And which is was a shock to me.
Does SAP have a good 2011 or a bad 2011? Predict.
Compared to 2010?
Compared to 2010.
Compared to 2
It's all
weeks ago,
relative.
Yeah, compared to what?
I think they're a great acquisition candidate for someone.
They're so huge. Nobody could afford
Microsoft,
to
they
buy
were almost
SAP.
doing a deal with Microsoft a few years ago.
Oh boy, but market cap wise, I don't know. I think a lot of
HP?
people underestimate SAP.
You don't think HP would needs to get into the enterprise
They
software
couldn't buy
business?
SAP if they wanted to.
Why not?
Why?
Look at first of all the market caps.
It's
Then
a
look
blind
at the-
spot. They don't have that
The chief
piece.
executive knows nothing about that company.
They got Oracle coming at them, right? Ellison has said basically HP is now public enemy #1. They want to go. They've got Sun. They're going to try to go after some of HP's stuff. You're starting to see them splinter a little bit. So I think HP comes back and says, how can we add that enterprise software piece to all this other stuff we've got? And, you know, again, they've got a ton of money. It's an overseas acquisition, so they don't have to worry about repatriating money to buy them. So.
Time out here. I just love watching all you guys shake your heads and frown at us. I think next year we got to have like sponges. Just throw them up here.
Yeah, that's right. Hand out tomatoes.
Yeah.
I think it's too early in 2011 to talk about SAP's business eroding to the point where they're going to get acquired. But I think there is a point where SAP either has to play offense and go out and be aggressive about adding parts to the business, doing acquisitions, or they will eventually become acquisition fodder for whether it's HP or Oracle or IBM. I mean, and I think Daniel's right that there's no question that the number of companies is going to shrink. And EMC, VMware, maybe even Salesforce, companies that are kind of below that top tier are going to be vulnerable.
Yeah.
And there are issues around things like valuation. Salesforce trades at like 120 times earnings or something like that. But it wasn't a problem when they were bidding for 3PAR. I mean, you had HP and Dell, they just wanted to own the asset because there just isn't that much to buy. And eventually, all of that stuff is going to get bought out. EMC looks expensive on paper until you look at it and realize that 85% or something of their market cap is their stock in VMware. So EMC is actually, I think, vulnerable here. Cisco could buy them. I think you could see EMC get acquired. I think much more likely than SAP.
Huh. Interesting. I disagree. Too big. Nobody's going to want to spend that kind of money. That's just my opinion. But let's move on to personalities. Who's Larry Ellison going to pick on next? Anybody here in the front row is vulnerable.
I think we know. I think it's Leo. I think it's HP. I think he's found his man and he's going to keep beating that.
Has he already started picking on him?
Yeah, I think that's going to be their story
So who's
now.
next?
Well, that lasted a couple of years. He had Bill Gates in the 90s. He had SAP for a few years, and now he's got. I mean, again, if he's taking on HP, they're several magnitudes larger than Oracle, so that's going to be a big fight for a long time.
Well, let's just be clear and let's be serious about it. It may seem like fun and games what Larry's doing, but he knows what the hell he's doing.
That's right.
And what he's doing is whittling down HP's reputation slowly but surely. And if I had to put my money behind one of the two, I'd put my money behind Larry and Oracle.
Larry.
Anybody willing to take
Thank God for
HP
Larry
in that
Ellison, by the way.
HP in that matchup?
Well, I think it's less a matter
Not
of. I don't think there's like a winner, in 2011. But I do think that you're going to see an arms race, and that's what you're basically doing. Is they buy 3Com, we buy Sun. You have this sort of one-upsmanship going on where they're trying to provide the entire enterprise computing stack from software, hardware, services, everything, and they will go out and buy the necessary parts. And so the question is, who else can keep up with them? IBM has been acquisitive. HP has been incredibly acquisitive this year. Even when they had no CEO, they were buying companies at unbelievable prices. And so, I think you just see more and more of that happen because, in part, this actually comes back to part of what drives the cloud computing. The customer doesn't want to deal with 27 people and have to hire, Anderson Consulting to put it all together for them and fix it. They'd rather buy the whole stack. And Larry has been talking about this. Like 10 years ago, he said, it's over. This is not a growth story anymore. This is a mature industry, enterprise computing, and it's going to consolidate. And we're going to do it. And then
One of the brilliant predictions, yes.
And he went out and did it, and he's not done.
Yeah. But what this boils down to, isn't it, is industry standard hardware versus integrated systems, right? I mean, on the one hand, you've got HP with x86, with all of these parts that are swappable, that's invested in scale and being able to really have leverage and cost. On the other hand, you've got Oracle and, to some extent, maybe folks like Cisco, who are trying to put together systems that work better together, but are really their own sort of thing. Which one gains ground in 2011, the industry standard folks or the systems folks?
Industry standards had momentum for years, and it's a great story. And if you look at the last quarter, who did better, HP or Cisco?
Yeah, but if we're looking in the mobile...
That'd be HP, and they got incredible momentum because they're coming out of that PC mindset, thin margins. And Cisco's out there with that really fat incumbent position, high software margins thing.
But I got to throw
And HP
Apple at
keeps
you.
coming at
Apple's a systems
Yeah,
play.
there
Who
you
did
go.
better, HP or Apple?
And we're seeing this in the mobile arena too. We suddenly, Apple, Android, we've got all these multiple systems. I think we're moving more into these walled gardens again.
Enterprise and consumer, it's a big theme for 2011. I ask again, more people weigh in. What wins, systems or industry standard in 2011?
Systems.
Systems, industry standard.
It depends.
Someone scream something.
Apple's largely consumer, right?
Tastes great.
People
Let's
But
go.
we're moving enterprise.
People want to push the button and it starts working. HP is largely enterprise. People want cheap. Different
gonna say-
markets,
are you
different
gonna-
standards. What's the issue? Why can't both things be true?
Right, but I actually think cheap, there's another way of looking
Doesn't
at
make a
cheap,
good
which
panel.
is
Oh, sorry.
integrate the stack, right? Reduce the amount of administrative costs to kind of put the enterprise stack together. And that is why they're all going out and buying all these mid-size storage companies, other pieces, is to put that full stack together. I don't think it's about, the industry's talking about best of breed. How many people wrote a press release like in 2010 with the word best of breed in it?
See, every hand's gonna go up if people
every
are,
device,
come
every
on.
company in the Valley was talking about how they would make the best of breed something, right? Which basically meant you only made one thing, and then you had to go buy like 150 other things that were also best of breed, and then you had to hire a consultant to put them together. And that's just not what it's about anymore. It's about put the whole thing together for me, make it easy. And I think that's, that's clearly to me what the driving trend is going to be.
But I'm interested by the extent to which we're going to see enterprises picking up on consumer technology, right? I mean, like JP Morgan is trying out the iPad. Like, more people are supporting the iPhone than businesses than before. And Microsoft is making a huge effort to move into the consumer space, right? I mean, we're not going to be seeing Connects in offices necessarily, but like, will people make the move maybe from BlackBerry to Windows Phone 7? Will consumers that are also working in enterprises demand that Microsoft that their companies support Windows Phone 7?
On a random side note, as I saw something, someone asked, when are we going to talk about Microsoft? I will say this. BlackBerry's share is going to get eaten not by necessarily Apple, but by Microsoft.
Yeah.
Windows Mobile 7?
Yes.
Did not
Windows Phone 7.
Who's
eats
got that
away
on their
BlackBerry.
Christmas list? Anyone?
Who has a BlackBerry on the Christmas list? Who has? I mean,
Windows Phone 7 isn't a short-term play. It is a long-term, slow play. They will slowly get into enterprises and business. They will slowly permeate the market, and they will do fine.
Microsoft does have a reputation for being sort of the zombie army of technology. Like they might, they're
Are
going
you
to
guys
get in
zombie?
there
Wait, where's the
eventually.
Microsoft table?
Right
Right up here somewhere,
yeah.
yeah.
They're the
They'll
zombies
eat
now.
us.
They'll get you.
But good zombies, like not bad zombies. Like,
Right. Yeah.
They're actually pretty nice.
They might throw a chair or two, but they're
I'll tell you though, in all the years I've covered tech, the most fun I've ever had, and the over seriously, which is, I never understood the public image that Microsoft has as this big, the Borg, right? And one-on-one, or
The
when
board,
you go to
I think
you go to
Cisco
events at
takes
Microsoft-
issue with that.
Maybe, yeah.
Cisco is the
but they're
Borg,
like the
aren't they?
most fun people you've ever met. Like, I mean, really, much more fun than Apple, for example. Not to get back to Apple again, but I mean, Microsoft. It's a weird disconnect to me between the way they've been portrayed by us in the press and their image in the world, and the way when you meet Microsoft people one-on-one or in small groups, or if you go to their research events. I mean, they're really pretty hilarious, smart, fun, hardworking people, and they really had a bad rap. I mean, and I'm guilty of that a lot. But,
not only that, but let
Character
me
witness
do,
from Microsoft.
This is not. Let's look back instead of a prediction for a moment. But Microsoft had a pretty good year in 2010. I mean,
Oh, yeah.
Windows 7 was a fabulous success.
They had their biggest
It
quarter
actually
ever, their
got
last
good
quarter,
reviews
yeah.
under other than we won't talk about that. So but you know what they did with Kin though is. Kin was a big, messy
Well, I mean, it
failure
wasn't
that no
necessarily
one
their
bought.
fault, right?
But their major initiatives were very successful. They got, Bing has been very successful at gaining market share.
Well,
They
Bing's been successful in market share, but not revenue.
But even in defense
Well-
of the kin, it was a total faceplant but they didn't do their usual sort of grind away at it for a few years and see if they can force
Right.
it through. You know, they like, oops, stop that. You know, we'll learn.
Microsoft
That's great. You know?
So, I mean, I think they figured out, I think you're exactly right. They
Connect.
recognized it and let it go. Well, and Connect has been so far very successful. So I think Microsoft has actually turned around their image from a company
Office
that
2010?
screws up to a company that actually produces well-engineered, well-designed products that the users like.
Gaining share in virtualization?
And gaining share in virtualization.
What does it take to get the Microsoft table to, come on? All right, there you go.
Can we
Trying to
get
get these guys pumped up a little bit. You're trying to. Anyway,
Justice Department still.
Access communications.
Yeah, right.
see, that's all you gotta say.
See?
We need to get Steve Ballmer in here. He could, that man, I can get him to
Yeah.
stand up and shout. Just all it takes is a red sweater, and he'll go. All right.
Can I ask?
Okay.
I want to ask a prediction though.
Ooh.
Yeah.
All right. Ask.
So, I mean, I'm curious for you guys. Do you think, is Windows Phone 7 going up or down next year? Will it be a story?
I think it's going to be more of a story than people might suspect.
But is it going to, will it grow
I don't think
with
it's a
market
kin
share?
story. I think it's actually
cool factor, or is it going to actually like gain share?
No,
It's
will
not
it
going to
gain-
have cool factor.
No, will it gain share? I think it has some cool factor.
Okay.
I think it has. I took it out at a table and I said, "Oh, I have the Windows Phone 7," and everyone's eyes glazed over, and then they saw the tiles, and everyone got really.
Once it gets over the,
But
it's
see,
a
I think-
Microsoft product.
I think the
it
comment
does
that
have
Ben made before is right, that it's not about Windows Phone 7 versus Apple and Android. It's about Windows versus RIM and Nokia.
And Palm.
And well, they don't have any market share.
Why are we
so
talking
No.
big deal.
But hey, CES, they always come out with something. If it's decent, maybe they gain some mind
All
share.
right, well,
Well,
we'll
and I
see
think
when
it's-
we see it.
That incumbent thing that Windows Mobile has been on a lot of phones around the world for years, it's no joke. You really can grow that out. So,
Well, I think we also probably all agree that mobile is the long-term path that everyone's on. So Microsoft has to succeed at mobile over time. It doesn't have to do it next year. It doesn't have to beat Android or Apple next year. But over time, it's got to win at mobile. It's got to understand it and figure out where is that going? How do we eventually adapt the main?
where Microsoft's concerned, the most interesting thing to me this year was Ray Ozzy's parting memo, where he said in it, it was the usual sort of victory lap, we did it, get out of here. But then he also said, I want you to conceive of a world without the PC. And he was kind of telling them, your main cash cow is also what's killing you. You got to start conceiving of the world in different ways.
Yeah.
And it's a comment to many, many strong companies, like the thing you love is the thing that's going to undermine you in the end, and get away from that. That was interesting.
Yeah, it's all about mobile and cloud for Microsoft. To the extent that Microsoft can do mobile and cloud in the long term will determine its success or failure.
I'll tell you, with Windows Phone 7, I think what probably determines their success or failure in 2011 is how fast they iterate. They really got to move fast. I took out my iPhone 4 and my Windows Phone 7 review unit and fired up Facebook. It took 10 seconds to load on the Windows Phone 7 phone, less than a second on the iPhone. That's a deal breaker for me.
Is there copy and
Gotta fix
paste
that.
yet? Did we get copy and paste?
It comes in the early, I think, 2011 update, which that's still needed. It's like I said before, it's a slower play, but they're not Microsoft, unlike the Kin or other products. They're going to keep on pushing. It's going to be more like Bing, where they keep on pushing the product slowly and steadily.
That and they need better code names for their updates. I mean, Google's got baked goods.
Yeah.
They got something, like, not pastries, because that's taken, but
Bear names?
maybe drinks.
Panda?
Yeah, panda. Cute animals. Carol Bartz.
Yahoo. We haven't talked about Yahoo all night.
Yeah,
Okay.
that's interesting.
I don't think it's going to happen in 2011.
I think it's going to be early in 2011. I think Carol's in big trouble. I think Yahoo's in big trouble.
Did you hear like that? There was the access table, and there was like the Yahoo chair.
Yeah.
Then there's like the Yahoo chair over there. There's like one person applauding.
If we heard some yodeling, that would be good.
Thank you. Come on, give it up, guys. When are you going to start fighting?
Yeah, I think Yahoo has a really fundamental problem that, despite Carol claims their story is simple, I think the story is simply that they don't have a really clear story, and they're getting killed in
It's weird because
every
they could have
front.
a clear story.
That's just because you don't live in the Midwest.
I'm sorry.
That's because you don't live in the Midwest.
Yeah, 'cause they don't live in
She
the
says
Midwest.
everyone in the Midwest.
They're
understands.
really big in like Dayton this year. So I mean, I think there's a very high probability that you have something monumental happen at Yahoo. I think they're going to have to sell off their big Asian investments. That will be part of any transaction that happens. I just don't.
Why do
think
they
Carol's
have to
gonna
sell
survive.
off their Asian investments?
Their
Because
stock is so low. It,
Yeah,
it
if you
makes
look
them
at,
vulnerable.
basically, if you look at the valuation, like a reasonable valuation on what their stake in the Asian assets are worth, the core business is being valued at like nothing. So, I mean, I think there's
Isn't that an argument to wait until
That's an
some
argument
of
to
those
keep it.
assets IPO in Asia before selling them off? I mean, everybody's trying to
that's what the bulls
pressure
are
them to
saying.
sell them off
many
before the
I'd hold
value
on to
gets
that
unlocked.
Asian stock so tightly. Yeah.
Yeah, I think they're going to end up, they're going to end up selling
They get sold for
the
parts.
Alibaba piece back to Jack Ma. There's no question it's going to get it's going to be taken apart. There'll be, Yahoo will have a smaller sign next year because they're going to be a smaller company.
Now, I gotta
Sorry.
say, I think the anti-Yahoo stuff is a bit overdone. I think, sure, the
Give it up, you two.
Yahoo Live over there. I think, sure, their revenues aren't growing that much, but hey, we're in a recession. They're getting efficient. They're getting a bit more profitable. They're still generating cash. I mean, unless the board just decides for some reason that they're going to switch horses again in midstream, what's the point? What's the point in switching?
You have to remember, we're in the Silicon Valley bubble where we're all saying like, oh, they're not growing like Google, Groupon, or Facebook or such things. But Yahoo is still the dominant website in most of the rest of the world across many different verticals. While Yahoo may not have some kind of magical super growth driver like a Groupon or such, it has core businesses that aren't going to be going away in the next year, 2, or 5. They're going to maybe struggle, but they're not going to go away. They're not going to have major drops.
I don't think anyone's saying they're going to go out of business. I mean, they're still one of the largest websites in the world. I think the problem is when you have an inability to convey a story and to talk about where you're going to grow, the issue is not with us or with users, it's with Wall Street. And the stock stays low, and you know that there are still bankers and various people out there crunching numbers. I think the AOL thing was a red herring. I don't think there was much to that. But you know there's all these people sort of looking at it and thinking, gosh, for that much, what would I get?
No, it
One of
does-
the largest websites in the world.
So they're
matter- it
Apple
does
circa
matter to us,
2001, right? With a big ARM investment that was worth a lot of money that they gradually sold off for cash generation, but the stock didn't get any respect. And Steve Jobs just whittled down the product line to really focus it while he waited on some kind of hit product to save the company that didn't show up for years. I mean, is that what it is?
Possibly.
Steve, well, part of the reason why Apple came back was because Steve Jobs was at the helm. The founder of the company was back. Carol Bartz isn't a visionary. Carol Bartz is a manager. Same thing with Steve Ballmer. Steve Ballmer isn't a visionary. He's a manager. And while they're doing pretty good this year, well, I'm saying Microsoft, you can't expect him to make the kind of visionary change that Bill Gates or Mark Zuckerberg or Steve Jobs or Larry Ellison would make.
So who do you think is the next big CEO to step down, 2011?
I'll get back to you on that.
It's whoever's talking about ethics and standards. The person who's the most moral is the one who's going to step down. You know, that's always the ones who are saying, you know what?
So who is that?
Steve
Forbes.
Steve Forbes just fired himself, didn't he, Quentin? What happened
He
there?
did. He's already stepped down. So
Did he?
There you go.
you're late.
You want to talk about that at all, or
Huh?
you want to talk about what's going on at Forbes these days?
Ask Eric, man.
It starts on Monday.
I want to make one more point because I found myself over and
let's
over this year since I work at Newsweek, over and over this year talking to companies like I had to do a story about Dig, and a column is like, how did you
This
guys?
year?
Yeah, just recently.
Okay.
How did you guys screw up so badly? Blah blah blah. But I had to preface it by saying, I realize the irony of someone from Newsweek asking you about your fucked up business, right? And
Now that you're with the Daily Beast, you
I
can go
really
call those
think
You mean
guys
the
up
Daily
again.
Beast Week?
Yeah, exactly.
Right.
But honestly, I mean, that's another huge, like the elephant in the room to me is that like our own industry, right, has been completely leveled by the internet. And we can sit here and talk about, well, Cisco should do this and blah, blah. And what have we done but sit around with our thumbs up our butts, like, and let our whole industry fall apart and go like, we don't know what we're doing, right? Like, I mean, we are so inept. There is nobody in the media business right now that can claim to give anybody advice about anything, I think, you know? I mean, we're great about telling people what they should do. But honestly, I mean, no. I mean,
That's the biggest applause of the night.
and now, only now, after 50,
Many of you depend on us, so I wouldn't
50
applaud too much.
no, they don't depend on us anymore. That's the other thing. That's why this is a joke. We're 7 clowns up
What?
here, and they don't need us anymore. They have Facebook. But
Look me.
I mean, no, listen. They don't need the media or the press.
Well, you know
anymore
what
at all.
screwed us up? We all depended on the internet advertising.
But no-
and every other business
Right.
is following us down
But
that.
listen, for 15 years, we lived with this delusion that in the last couple of years, we started to realize that it was an illusion that, okay, our print businesses are going to go away or our broadcast business, but we'll make up for it with this online stuff. And only now, like literally now in 2010, they're all kind of looking around going, oh, I guess that didn't work out like that. Like that didn't make any sense. The CPM rates have come down. So we tried, let's make out more page views. Let's do slideshows. Let's do top 10 nude beaches on Forbes, right? To try to get any kind of traffic we can get from the portals, right? No, I mean,
Top 10 nude beaches.
I was at Forbes when this happened. I spent 10
This
years
is a
at
true
Forbes.
story. No,
Who wants to go to a nude beach after this?
I'm just saying.
I gotta footnote this because Top 10 Nude Beaches is one of the great journalism stories. We ran Top 10 Nude Beaches, and we ran 10 pictures of beaches with no people on them.
No news. Yeah.
And you people clicked on all 10.
Because you know what?
So that's all I need to know.
And I know why, because you keep thinking that
Might
like,
be a nude
you
person
keep
on the
thinking
next one.
Basically, you see a
At least they didn't
shoulder.
have pictures of Steve Forbes on the video.
No, but like really,
yeah.
only now we've all realized suddenly this year, 15 years in, all these big brains in the media business realized that the whole thing we pursued for 15 years was stupid and didn't make any sense, and that there's no money in it, right? And now you see everybody racing around trying to figure out, well, how can we? So Gawker is changing now. Gawker is saying, let's redesign the site. We'll try to do more video ads. We'll still be an open site, but we'll try to get higher CPMs by doing that. Or you have Murdoch saying, we're going to do an iPad app, and we're going to close it off. We're going to rope it off, and we'll get subscription fees that way. Because otherwise, if we stay with what we're doing, we're all screwed. We're all dead. Like, all of us are dead. Like, I mean, our model, and you're not, you work at Bloomberg.
I'm not, I work at
They sell
Bloomberg.
terminals.
Yeah.
No, if you can hook a web business to something else, like the Daily Beast can hook it to the print side of Newsweek. You're
such a
and siphon off that
romantic,
cash.
Dan.
I don't know about you, but we're still hiring over here.
Yeah, you're hiring, but wait, what are you paying? You're not paying what I make. I know that, right? So, I'm just saying. I don't want to be a jerk, but like basically, honestly, journalism used to be a field. where you
It's all right. I have a couple decades still.
Yeah, okay, right, exactly. You do, but you know what? But honestly, no, that's right. That's true. That's fair enough. No, I'm not trying to say. I don't mean it in a bad way. Journalism used to be a field. No, a friend of mine who works at the Daily Beast, who used to work at Newsweek, when the sale of Newsweek was announced, and you know, Tina Brown, this is months ago, right, before they decided to merge with us and we were so great and there was all this synergy, the initial reaction of Daily Beast was like, oh yeah, Newsweek sucks, they're going down, we love this, right? Gawker was loving it, everybody was loving it, all the blogs were loving watching old media collapse. And this one guy who came from Newsweek to the Daily Beast went around to these young kids and said, you know, I don't think you should be cheering for this, you know? What you're seeing is the destruction of an industry where in the old days, guys like you had a chance. If you stayed in the business long enough, you might actually make enough money to have a mortgage, to have kids, to buy a car, to put your kids through college. You're not going to have this on the economics of the Daily Beast and the Huffington Post and the way things are set up now.
Speaking of disruption,
by the way, Dan,
let's talk about
Nobody's
clean
Gawker.
tech.
No,
Does
Dan,
clean tech
by the
have a
way,
good
the traffic on
or a bad
Newsweek.com
2011?
versus
Nobody
the traffic.
cares about our media cry fest. This is Media Predicts about technology.
Actually, this has
This is
been the
how
most fun of the
clean
evening,
tech.
yeah?
I saw someone tweet and ask for this.
John, I don't think you got a finger on the audience here.
It's true. Nude beaches make great stories.
There you go. Oh, but Dan,
yeah.
the traffic on Newsweek.com, the traffic on the Daily Beast, how'd they compare?
We're twice as big.
Yeah, and the Daily Beast took you over.
Right,
what
exactly.
the hell?
Let's talk
They had a
about
cooler
that.
name.
Yeah.
They had a cooler name.
Yeah.
But there is a caveat to that.
Yeah?
The caveat is that a great deal of Newsweek's traffic is just portal bait traffic that's coming over from, in fact, they're paying for it. So yes, they have 5 million uniques a month. Okay, fair enough, which is like, okay, it's not exactly. 5 million uniques a month. a great deal of that is just portal bait, and they're actually paying MSNBC to send them that traffic. So they're actually losing money on it. Yeah, and they generate. Here's the other statistic I found it funny. Last year in
But they
print,
make it up on volume.
no, but listen, last year in print, Newsweek had a crappy year and did $150 million in revenue.
Yeah.
The online division took the same stories, added more stuff to them, and made $9 million.
Okay, people, indulge me.
Okay.
Enough media navel-gazing.
You're a TV guy,
We
you
haven't
don't
touched
care.
on clean tech at all.
Oh, yeah.
Clean tech.
Room just went wild.
I'm sure they involve I'm sure everybody loves the self-immolation of media.
No, wait a minute.
But I actually want
wanted
to
talk
hear
about
what you
carbon
folks have to say
sequestration.
about
I
clean
really
tech.
did want to talk about carbon sequestration. Let's talk about that because it's an important subject and people love it. It's sexy,
Yeah.
it's hot, it's carbon coming
Yeah.
out of smokestacks and you sequester it. Underground, turn it into cement. What's your take?
Bricks.
Bricks. Yeah.
Does clean
Okay,
tech have
John.
a better or worse time under a Republican administration? I was just talking to Alan Saltzman of Vantage
It's
Point
not
about
a
this.
Republican administration. It's still a Democratic administration with a split.
Oh, yeah, sorry.
Congress.
I mean,
Barack didn't change
a
parties.
Republican-controlled House. Do they have a harder
No,
or
they're screwed.
easier time with this?
It's not going to
the
do that
contention.
much. Policy is still more set by the EPA.
Haven't-
If there's any initiatives that are going to pass or need to be renewed in 2010, there might be more difficulty. But I don't think that's the real issue. I think. I mean, clean tech is one of the most serious issues out there, and if you think about it, because if we don't get clean tech right, we're fucked.
Whoa. Okay. Hey, that's it.
And so, so right now, right now, like Tesla doing good stuff, but they're not doing all that hot. If you've seen the revenues, and you've seen negative revenues.
What
or whatever the
revenues?
hell. Yeah, exactly. and you see, like you're hoping that one of these, like that Bloom Energy, like I don't know if it's gonna win, but I have so much hope that they succeed because a Bloom box in every home would be a major step towards solving a problem that is much more important than a lot of the problems that we've talked about in this stage so far.
But how much hope can you put towards the R&D, right? I mean, like, and they can't make money off of that, right? I mean, I hope that we stop polluting the oceans and all of that, but I just don't think it's sustainable without government help.
Well, it depends. There is government help, at least, and there's state help. Although I don't know if you really want California helping you.
Sure you do. I mean, you were asking about next year specifically. I'd say it's going to be a much worse year because, even after the election, people I was talking to from the clean tech industry were still saying, well, we think, there'll be bipartisan support for more money for research because we all recognize it's important. I don't think that's going to happen.
No.
And I think deals like, the $500 billion Solyndra got to build a factory, the money that Tesla got. I mean, none of those things would be here in the Valley without the government chipping in to make it happen. That's just not going to happen next year, maybe some years down the road. But the other problem is that right now, China is massively subsidizing that stuff. And so, I mean, clean tech is such a complicated subject, but on the manufacturing part, we briefly had this dream that, gee, maybe this is going to bring manufacturing back to America or Silicon Valley, but I think we've missed that. And I think unless there's massive government
This is such
support.
hypocrisy because how much of the tech industry and how much of the original energy industry, petroleum, had government help? A hell of a lot. Yeah, it was monster. Yeah, they've all been helped along by the government, and they get tax breaks and they get right.
But it's not about whether
putting
they
this
should
out
get,
as some kind of
but
government-dependent
it's not about
thing.
whether they should get government help. The problem is, so if you look at the solar industry, right? The solar industry has succeeded. Like, so where's the biggest solar market in the world? Sunny Germany, right? The vacation capital of the world, right? All those great German beaches. And so they have the largest solar industry in the world. What? Why? Because they have a hugely subsidized solar industry, right? And so, and you saw what happened in Spain. Spain was the second largest solar industry in the world. They get sunny there, a little more frequently than Germany. But the real issue was huge government subsidies for solar in Spain. The government went, we can't keep doing this. We're dying. And unfortunately, they didn't realize it fast enough. So they cut the subsidies, and the solar industry in Spain collapsed. And this is the basic problem that you have in some of these green tech industries, is that if you are going to be reliant on government subsidy, whether it's from Germany or Washington or Sacramento, you are running a huge risk
that as soon as as soon as budgets get tight, they pull out the rug from you.
Well, you
and,
just have to
and so the weight of the weight is on the industry to become become compatible on a unsubsidized basis. I mean, and it's not a matter of what should happen. It's
what
what
if the oil industry had to build its own superhighway system?
Yeah, but we're in an. The problem is economics. You have state governments, federal governments around the world that just simply can't afford to provide these giant subsidies.
China doesn't.
No,
care
while we're
about
sitting here, and that's it. While we're sitting
Yeah.
here arguing this, China is doing it, and by the time we get around to doing it, China will have done it,
Yeah, they
and then
are
the market is
subsidizing.
gone.
Right,
We
but
have too many
China's
incumbents.
economy is
The problem is our government is subsidizing incumbents. They're subsidizing the future.
No. Yeah, I think so.
So it sounds like that's the story of 2011 then.
Oh.
I mean, how could you call Cylinder, though, and Tesla incumbents?
No, I meant the oil industry.
Oh, well,
Those incumbents.
yeah.
I think just to touch on that, I think the other interesting story is what Google is doing with energy. I mean, they're investing in wind power and clean power. They have license to trade energy, right? I mean, they're really, I think, thinking about this long term and what they're going to do about powering the massive number of data centers that they have.
True. And not just Google. I mean, Cisco with smart grid. I mean, you got
Right.
a number of tech companies that are trying to, I wouldn't even say dip their toes in this. They're making significant investments. What happens to them in the 2011 environment where austerity becomes the message, maybe even at least from the House? Does that affect tech, big tech? I mean, there's a lot of cash locked up in big tech. They can spend it on whatever they want. Do we continue to see that investment? Does it have a decent year? Can they hold out where the startups might falter, or what happens?
They have to keep spending on infrastructure. They have to keep building data centers. They have to keep, just growing that whole infrastructure everywhere. And that's a lot of energy and it's a lot of cost, but, you have to keep making your product faster and more reliable and, in getting into the cloud, making it available for mobile all the time. So I think, and they have a company like Google has tons of money to build that stuff. So I think they know that, one advantage they have is to continue to make that search experience faster.
Time flies when you're making predictions, and we've come to the point in our program where it's time for your one big prediction for 2011. What's going to be the big story before we move to Q&A? Start at the far end. Eric.
Oh, I have to go first again? Okay. The Giants will not win the World Series. I think one big story in 2011 is going to be a reduction in the number of mobile phone platforms. One or two of the big ones are just going to collapse and go away. I don't know if it's going to be RIM, maybe it's going to be Symbian, but we have like 6 or 7 or 8 mobile platforms. It's way too many. By the end of next year, we'll be down to 3, 4 at the most.
All right. Rachel.
That matter. I mean, the others may still exist, but the ones that matter with substantial market share, 4 or less.
So I've been watching the tech industry go up and down for about 16, 18 years now. And this feels a lot to me like maybe 1996, 2005. I mean, I think we're definitely on the upswing. And I think that all these companies, Apple's got $50 billion, and $25 billion in short-term cash, that all these massive war chests. And I think they're about to spend. And I think we're about to see some huge changes in the tech industry. I think we're about to see jobs come back in a big way. And I think 2011 is going to be, a big year.
Oh, all right.
How's that for a prediction?
A big M&A prediction? We're getting solid predictions. I like it, Quentin.
I stick my neck out. The return of chat roulette. No, okay, forget that. The return of the super poke. No, okay. That said, I'll pick up on yours. Chinese companies buying American companies. There's a ton of money out there, and it's going to be really controversial. But Baidu or Tencent can start buying American assets.
You're right.
But
and
and
it's going to be
Feds
freaky
let 'em?
when it happens, huh?
Will the government let them?
That's going to be the war,
How can they say
Biden's not
no?
going to go jump into the American economy quite yet. Not 2011.
Yeah, not Baidu. Huawei.
Come on, it's
Huawei,
Quentin's
mate.
prediction. You'll have your
There's just a
turn.
ton of
Yeah,
money sloshing
come
around in
on.
Asia. We have great assets. Dollars getting cheap. Why not?
China buying, or Chinese companies buying US companies. Bold. Chris?
No big tech IPOs in 2011.
No big tech IPOs. What do you define as big?
You know, like the big names everyone's waiting for: Facebook, Zynga, LinkedIn. You know. Wait, which one of those got that?
Access is repping one of those. I just don't know.
They're actually, Access is going public in 2011.
All right.
You're all in a cult.
But you know, the big name that everyone's been praying for like 3 years to get that market starting, it's not going to happen. There might be one or two little ones, but none of the big kahunas are all running as far away from that as they can, and that'll happen next year.
Okay. Bianca?
AC/DC on iTunes.
Oh, yeah.
That's the one we've all been waiting for.
Now that Paul McCartney's given in, yeah. No, I think personalization. I think increasingly no two people will have the same experience on the web, right? So in our search results, in what our ads, obviously, our news, everything will be customized to our preferences, our habits, our friends, and we're seeing it already. So more and more of that.
I was just gonna.
You're old.
I'm just. Access. Nice job.
Power.
Prediction. In the war between Facebook and Google, Facebook will win.
Next year.
It'll be very apparent.
As opposed to 2010. That's
not apparent quite yet.
Oh, okay. In advertising? Just in general?
Just in general.
All right. Facebook over Google. Dan?
Yeah, I would follow up on that. I two parts. One is I think this is the year when people start to realize how scary Facebook is. Okay. And
Scary good or scary scary?
scary. And two, I think this is the year Twitter figures out how to turn on the taps and start making some really serious money. And we actually see that company finally come alive in a financial sense.
So you're coming up against Jim Goldman once again.
Oh, does he? Oh, he said
last year he said they'd be dead by now, and now you're saying
he's
they're
dead,
going
and
to
you took his job.
No.
I'm just saying, how did that prediction work out for him? You know,
This has just been yet another example for me to have to stand in Jim Goldman's shadow. And
My God, man.
No, and I've been skeptical about Twitter, but I actually do think that somehow, I don't know how, but I think they will figure it out. There's so many people on that system that they will figure out a way to make really serious money with that company. And that this is the year they'll do it. So.
I have a prediction for the decade, actually, following up on that.
For the decade?
Oh, yeah.
Talk about bold.
Mark Zuckerberg isn't going anywhere. That's my prediction.
What do you mean he's not going anywhere?
Like in a bad way or a good way?
He'll be CEO for the next decade.
Okay.
That's not bold. It's idiocy if you bet he's going to leave in the next decade or 2 decades.
Yeah.
Or 2 decades.
There's a reason why he controls the board. He's not giving it up.
All right.
But will he wear a
I
black
think we're supposed to do
turtleneck?
questions or something.
Yes, and I guess I should make a prediction.
Okay, what's yours?
Yours.
Verizon iPhone. No, just kidding. I predict Facebook will release a product and have a big privacy flap. No, just kidding.
Super
Having
reproach.
flashbacks.
Now, I predict that systems once again will gain ground on industry standard parts in 2011.
Somebody really likes that.
It wasn't Access, though, I know that.